Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Brazilian cheese bread. That's right, the first time I had this, I was like, cheese bread? Shouldn't this be called cheese rolls or cheese buns? And I was told no, it's called Pão de Queijo, which means cheese bread. But anyway, went back and forth like that for a while. And since my Portuguese is not that strong, I stopped arguing. Besides, who cares what it's called? All you should care about is that they're easy, delicious, beautiful, and gluten-free. Which is nice if you happen to swing that way. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the main ingredient, which is tapioca flour, which pretty much looks and feels exactly like cornstarch. And believe it or not, it actually comes from the cassava root, also known as yuca, as those of you that saw our recent yuca fries video very well know. So just a little fun fact. And what we'll do to start this very simple dough is add some milk, some olive oil, and a nice big pinch of salt to a pan, which we will then bring to a simmer over medium-high heat. Oh, and by the way, a lot of recipes call for vegetable oil here, or a combination of vegetable oil and olive oil. But personally, as long as it's not too strongly flavored, I do like the olive oil. But anyway, like I said, we'll place that over medium-high heat. And very important here, we don't want this to reduce. Okay, so keep a close eye on this. And as soon as you see little bubbles starting to form around the edge, get ready to move. Because just as soon as it starts to simmer like this, we're going to immediately turn off the heat. And then quickly but very safely pour it into our tapioca flour. At which point all we're going to do is take a fork, and we'll give this a mix. And basically we're going to keep mixing until we can't see any more of that tapioca flour. And fair warning, the mixture is not going to look that great at this point, but it will when we add the rest of the ingredients. So stay calm. We never want to cook scared. And it's totally okay at this point if things look a little bit shaggy. And then what we'll do as soon as that's mixed is simply let it sit for 5 minutes to cool down a little bit before we add our cheese, or in my case, cheeses. Since I'm going to be going with a combination of mozzarella and Parmesan. So we'll wait about 5 minutes and toss in our cheese. And by the way, don't use that fresh, wet mozzarella. We want that sort of drier, firmer kind that's easier to grate. And speaking of cheese recommendations, we will also want to use the real Parmesan, Parmigiano Reggiano. And yes, of course you can use other cheeses for this. Right, something like sharp cheddar would also be a great choice. And then what we'll do to finish this off is add 1 large beaten egg, as well as the traditional shake of cayenne. And that's it. Once everything's in, we'll grab our fork and simply stir this until it's all combined. And if you're one of these people that's always afraid of overmixing doughs, I have some great news for you. Because tapioca flour does not contain any gluten, there's like 0 chance you can mix this too much. Okay, you could stir this stuff for like 10 minutes and there would be no issues. Except, of course, you'd be wasting like 8 minutes of your life. So as soon as we think everything's been thoroughly combined, and we've achieved a nice soft sticky dough, we will stop. And we can proceed to portion this up on a silpat lined baking sheet. Or if you want, parchment lined. And there's actually 3 different ways you can create this Brazilian cheese bread. Okay, you can make a soft sticky dough like we did, and use a scooper to portion it like you see me doing here. Or you can actually add more flour, so your dough's a little stiffer. And instead of scooping, you can roll this stuff into balls. Yes, you guessed it, using some damp hands. And then lastly, on the other end of the spectrum, you can make a much looser dough with more liquid and pour that into muffin cups and bake it like you would a popover. And while all 3 versions basically will taste the same, the textures will be different. So just because I prefer this style doesn't mean you will, so feel free to experiment. I mean, you guys are after all the Pelés of trying this different ways. But anyway, I went ahead and scooped out 12 semi-equal portions. And then speaking of damp hands, if you have any jagged bits, you can poke those down with a wet fingertip, which I think I do more out of muscle memory from working with pâté choux, since these will probably bake up pretty much exactly the same whether you give them the old poka or not. But anyway, once our dough's been scooped out and possibly poked, it's ready to transfer into the center of a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes, or until they are golden and beautifully puffed. And no, I did not say golden brown. These do not really get that dark. Unless you really cook them a lot longer, and then they're going to get dry. So this really is what they should look like. And other than a few rogue pieces of cheese poking through, the surface really is not going to brown. Although if we do peek underneath one, if cooked enough, the bottom will be golden brown. And that's it. We'll just let these cool for a few minutes before enjoying, because we do want to eat these warm. So I just let these sit for about 5 minutes before grabbing one so I could pull it apart and show you what it's supposed to look like. And if everything's gone according to plan, you should get a beautiful stretch here when you pull these apart. So what we have here is a very thin, semi-crispy shell surrounding a beautifully cheesy, stretchy, chewy center. And if that combination sounds like it would be good, it is. Really good. And by the way, as these cool, you're going to lose that stretch, which is why we really do want to serve these immediately. And also why we should probably transfer those into a basket lined with a towel, so we can maybe keep those warmer a little longer on the table. And as cool as this feels and looks, it also tastes amazing as well. Okay, nice and cheesy as you would expect, but that cheesiness is delivered in a very light, airy package. Okay, this is one of those rare baked products that's somehow rich and decadent and light at the same time. And if you happen to be wondering, hey, could you split these open and use them like a little slider roll? Well, yes you can, as I will now prove with a meatball and some sauce. So yes, because of that semi-hollow inside, I think these really do make a perfect thing to stuff. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish this. And what you're going to do, I really hope, is go find some tapioca flour and give this easy, delicious, and beautiful Brazilian cheese bread a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.